to the fourth episode of Between Two Pines, brought to you by the Breakthrough Task Force Coalition here in Big Bear, whose mission is to reduce underage access and use of drugs and alcohol within our community through positive community efforts. Today we're going to be talking about the dangers of vaping with the youth, and I have here with me Mr. Addison Saenz from the Healthy California Collaborative and San Bernardino County Tobacco Control Program. It's quite the mouthful, but we're very excited to have you here today, so welcome.
Welcome. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, we're just going to jump right in and we're going to start talking about vapes and the different problems that we have in the community and just in California in general. So our first question is for you is, what is classified as a tobacco product as of 2018 and who can buy them?
Well, let's start off with who can buy them first.
Okay.
In 2016, the law in California actually changed. So the age now to purchase tobacco went from 18 to 21. So that's the first thing I want to make clear is that you have to be 21 to buy tobacco products. But when we're thinking of tobacco, right, a lot of people tend to think of you think of your traditional cigarettes and cigars and things of that nature. But in 2018, it's actually a lot more than that. It includes hookah, we're talking about e-cigarettes or vapes. I also want to throw in Juul in there because a lot of youth, when they don't associate Juul to vaping. Also dissolvables such as lozenges, we're talking about sticks or strips that dissolve and contain nicotine. Another thing also is that smokeless tobacco, we're talking about chew, dip, snuff, snus, cigarettes, premium cigars, we're talking about little cigars such as Black and Milds and Swisher Sweets. Roll your own tobacco that you can, you can roll it in your own paper and roll your own cigarette, and then also pipe tobacco.
Okay, all right. So why do you think why has vaping and flavored tobacco become so popular, especially among the youth?
Well, the reason why it's becoming more popular is because what flavoring does to tobacco products is it actually masks that harsh tobacco flavor. Okay. So what we're looking at is, by it masking that flavor, it makes it easier for youth to begin smoking or continue smoking. One of the flavors that's actually the most concerning is menthol, because mentholated tobacco products actually tend to make it more difficult for people to eventually quit. But when we're thinking of sweet flavors, you're thinking of things nowadays, especially with vapes, you're thinking of chocolate, gummy bears. We've heard Cinnamon Toast Crunch as an example. Cookie dough, cherry, apple, you name it. And what this does is because it makes it, it enhances the addictiveness of the cigarettes. It makes them want to, use these products a little more. And believe it or not, that most teens that have reported that have used a tobacco product actually started with a flavored product.
Okay. Can you expand on what an e-cigarette and e-cigarette liquid is?
Yeah, so e-cigarettes, there's a whole wide array of different kinds of e-cigarettes, but we're talking about e-pens. They tend to be a little thinner. We're talking about e-pipes, e-hookahs, e-cigars. You're thinking of, they call them mods. They're these bigger, they look almost like bricks in cell phones, right? We're talking about Juuls. Juuls is another thing that that's one of the biggest things I like to make or let people know is that, yes, Juul is also a vaping device. A lot of teens tend to say, I'm not vaping, I'm Juuling. Still vaping.
Same thing.
And now, as far as e-liquids go, not much is really known as to what's in them. The one thing that we do know for certain is that it does contain flavorings and nicotine. But one of the other chemicals that we typically tend to find in these flavorings is, I have to look down to pronounce it correctly, it's propylene glycol, which is, or otherwise known as glycerin. That's what we find in those products. And now one of the common things that we hear about them is, glycol or vegetable glycerin is a food grade product. Well, yes, the FDA has approved it for, as a food additive or, as for medicines. However, what we also like to let people know is that this glycerin is also found in other things such as smoke machines, fog machines. We're talking about de-icing agents for planes. And also, it's also found in antifreeze. So your glycerin is, yes, it's been FDA approved, but it's still not something you should be ingesting into your lungs.
Right, makes sense. How many different e-cigarette liquids are currently on the market, and where can you find them?
Well, where can you find them? Let's say everywhere nowadays. We can really find them most anywhere. But where we're finding them mostly is you're finding them in your convenience stores, your liquor stores, smoke shops, vape shops, gas stations, big box retailers, and you even sometimes we're even finding them in some pharmacies as well. But right now at this point in the market, we're actually seeing that there's roughly about 15,000 flavors or e-liquids that are available on the market right now.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you can purchase those online too, right?
Yeah, that's correct. You can purchase them online.
That's crazy. Okay, so let's sum it all up and say, what would you say are the main dangers of vaping?
One of the main dangers of vaping, well, at the end of the day, what we want to say is vaping and smoking, it's still the same thing. You're vaping, smoke is smoke at the end of the day. And one of the things that what we want to let people know is that vaping has, there's still a lot of research that is being done. It's still a very new thing. But one of the things that we've actually found in 75% of the e-liquids on the market is there's a chemical called diacetyl, which actually causes popcorn lung.
Okay.
So that's one of the dangers right there, is that it really is something that can affect the lungs. And then another thing I want to make clear is that oftentimes when we're thinking of vaping, people think it's water vapor or it's vegetable oil vapor. It's actually an aerosol. So when all these different chemicals heat up, it comes into an aerosol containing nicotine and other substances that we don't really know because we don't know what the ingredients are inside the e-liquids. Another thing as well is at the end of the day, it's 80% of youth that have used these tobacco products have started with a flavored product. So it really is a way that gets youth to get into more traditional tobacco products.
Right. All right.
So.
Well, thank you so much, Addison. We
Yeah, you're
appreciate
welcome.
you being here and all your information. We definitely want to make sure that we are educating our community on the dangers of what our youth are getting involved in. And I know that at the high school, they've had a huge problem with vaping, and so we just want to protect our youth here in the community. And I want to encourage you, if you're watching and you have a heart and a passion to also protect our youth and keep them away from drugs and alcohol, we do have a coalition that meets the third Thursday of every month. So we're going to be meeting tomorrow, and we meet from 12:30 to 1:30 at the PTL Plus bookstore, which is just by the village off of Petter Road. We serve lunch, and we just try and come together as a community and find ways that we can reduce underage access and use of drugs and alcohol within our community. So with that, again, we thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Addison, for being here, and we want to wish you all happy and safe holidays. Have a good one. Cool.
All right, that was easy.
We rock.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
I hope, because when I hit the start, it was showing you, but then it kind of, so I don't know if I cut maybe like a second of your intro off.
Oh, that's why I tried to wait a couple seconds. Let's see if we can go back. Oh, I think we have to finish.